Is Elon the true savior of crypto Twitter? We are about to find out. I think there's a lot of things happening with not only Mr. Musk, but also the strategies that Twitter may play into the future of where Web3, crypto, NFTs, all of that will go. We're going to dive into that deep for you guys today. My name is Paul Barrow. Welcome back into Tech Path. A lot of what we've talked about here on the show before, especially when it comes to Elon Musk, you guys know I'm a big fan of Tesla, but I'm also a big fan of innovation. And anybody that's doing it and doing it at the level in which Musk has been able to achieve over the past few years with SpaceX, Neuralink, the boring tunnels, you name it. I was really insightfully pleased, but at the same time skeptical of how this may turn out with Twitter. And today we're going to break down a few things because it looks like Musk, if he holds true to his word, may be stepping down as CEO. Now, what will that have in terms of an effect on all that? So we'll break it all down. Today I want to thank our sponsor, and that is Trezor. Trezor is one of the leading places for a hardware wallet. If you guys have not tried them make sure and check them out. You can just go to trezor.io. It's very easy. This is the device I have. I love this one mainly because of the big screen. But they also have the Trezor platform in terms of their app, which is the Trezor Suite. And it is an amazing product as well. So if you like using hardware wallets, which is one of the things I recommend that all people should be doing right now is hardware self-custody, this is one of the tools to do it with. Make sure and use our link below to help the channel out. That is the way to go. All right, let's get into it today. Really breaking down some of the happenings over the weekend with Elon, and probably the biggest news was this right here, is he's likely to resign as the CEO. This is a Twitter poll that favored that resignation, 57.5% versus, what was the other percentage? Yeah, just a little bit under that. So I don't know if he had a third. Yeah, it was just yes, no. So you can kind of see. So this was pushed on to the Twitter community. And as you know, if you've been following Twitter and also just the aspect of how Elon has been managing the company, he's been taking a lot of heat from left-wing media. He's been taking a lot of heat from what were his friends of the past. And he's also really kind of put a new way to manage the whole aspect of how Twitter is creating policy, creating products and resources. All of that has kind of changed in the way, because obviously being a private company, you can do anything it wants with it. So this will be interesting to see if this poll does, in essence, force him to step down as CEO. Now, let's assume that that is the case. He steps down as CEO, and there's a lot here that we're going to get to further in the video that really starts to kind of point in some directions that are very intriguing as to the future of where Twitter might go, and whether or not the future of Twitter is real and how it might be connected to crypto in general. But if you want to think about just the strategies from an executive standpoint, now it may be one of those things where Elon is crazy like a fox, where he essentially has been trying to get into a position where he could opt out as CEO in a way in which it pleased the community. Think about this. We'll just go down one conspiracy theory here. He saw and understands kind of the workload that's going to be required. He knows how much he needs to be putting into Tesla and other companies that he's got within SpaceX. Neuralink is doing some stuff in terms of big innovation. And maybe he's thinking, I'm here, it's good, we can kind of put our hands around this, I just need a new CEO. If he did that without opting in, and maybe he was trolling the community all along, to try to get it into a position, including some of these crazy, I won't call them crazy, but questionable moves that he has done, especially the one over the weekend where he said, all right, if you have a competing social media platform, you can no longer use that as a link within your bio or with any kind of direct connection to your Twitter account. That I thought was a very big deal, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But those were some of the things that really started to, I think, address the situation with where Elon's head is and how this might affect crypto, specifically Dogecoin, even Bitcoin, because remember, this guy has a handful of Bitcoin. Not that that would necessarily cause any tremors in the market, but it would cause some potential follow-on effect from others who are following and are the Elon fan base. So if you look at this statement right here, this is interesting. Before he steps down, I'd just like to thank Elon Musk for shattering the myth that the billionaires are smarter and more hardworking simply any better than anyone else in the most public way imaginable. So, yeah, I love it when you kick a man when he's down. Not that he's down, but he's definitely had a few problems. And this also is a situation that has put Elon Musk in the crosshairs of a situation that he has never been in before, and that is he's playing the villain. He's playing the bad guy. And that, I think, also plays into his psyche. Because I think his whole theory of what he's trying to do for the world, the planet, humanity, is trying to create better, good for. And I think this whole issue of Twitter, which is, as we all know, is somewhat of a cesspool, you have to understand it puts you right into harm's way. And unless you're ready to go into harm's way, you have to be prepared for the kind of scenarios that have played out for Twitter. So that may be just as simple as that. Is he looked at it and said, this is not for me. I don't want to be the bad guy. I don't want to have to deal with these policies. I'm going to own it. And at the end of the day, I'm going to have a new CEO. He's going to be making all these shots, calling all these shots. Likelihood is we could also get a really crappy CEO at the helm of Twitter, or we could get a good one. I'm going to guess that it's probably going to be a crappy one that you'll never hear from, even though Elon will still be somewhat pulling the strings. I feel like that's the way it works with Tesla, even though his engineering prowess at Tesla is highly needed. Same thing at SpaceX. You very rarely hear those executives come out and talk. The other thing that I think a lot of people were looking at is that the Tesla stock upon this might end up doing a little correction, because it has been on a flyer in a downward trend for the last week, 10 days. And unfortunately, it has not been the case. Tesla did not end up correcting. I think the situation with Tesla is still addressing whether or not their Q4 performance is going to be one that holds. So again, I think that also might be weighing in on Elon, because of the fact that this may be an issue on pulling time from Tesla. If you look at this Teslanomics, Elon stepping down from Twitter could be a positive for Tesla stock, but it also could be negative in the grand scheme of things in the future of humanity. Now, granted, people might look at it and say, well, all right, we need guys like Elon to lead some of these problems that we have created in our society, that which are social media. And the only real solving of this problem is going to be done by someone that has, one, the balls to do it, and two, the means. And Elon has both. So he's in a position right now, I think, of this is more of a social acceptance problem, I think, for Elon. And I'm not, a psychologist here, but I just look at the way he's behaved over his tenure in growing Tesla, how Tesla was acquired, the process in which he, built Tesla out. All of that, I think, really pertains back to the whole situation of Elon wanting to be the good guy. So I think that is going to be a problem, because it is going to put some pressure on the future of where the situation may go with crypto Twitter, and also crypto in general, especially as a payment device on Twitter right now. And I would love to get you guys' feedback. Make sure and smash the like button on this. If you think that Elon, if him stepping down slows down the process for some sort of payment system in blockchain on Twitter, just smash the like button if you think that slows it down. And then further in, we'll talk about if you think it speeds it up. But you've got Elizabeth Warren now, who has written a letter to Tesla's board asking whether investors have been harmed by the billionaire's time running the social network. Again, even though his fiduciary responsibility as the CEO of Tesla is required to a board, that board most likely still had to approve, even though that is kind of a rubber stamp board, it still has to approve those kind of things of what that CEO is going to be spending and doing his time with. Now, granted, this being a completely different entity, that starts to, kind of weigh in on some situations. We've already had this before, where multi-million and publicly traded brands have been managed by the same CEO. And that, of course, is Jack Dorsey, when he was running Square and Twitter at the same time for years. And again, there was a big pushback on the Twitter board that Jack should be stepping down. And at the end, he did step down as CEO of Twitter and moved on to Square for many reasons. But part of that is you can't run two companies at the level in which these companies require the time of the CEO. I think that is still the problem. Getting Warren coming in on this, I think, is more of just these personal vendettas that these politicians have for Elon. And it may be a scenario where some of these things start catching up with him. And that's a worry, I think, for Elon, is that you cannot fight the world. You have to kind of pick your battles. And these are the things that he's starting to run into, which is creating a bigger battlefield for him on an ongoing basis. And I'll talk a little bit about that. But if you look at this tweet, question for Tesla is not if, but just how big the new annual record will be. And this is in reference to Tesla deliveries. So fourth quarter, they're still hovering around. Remember, big numbers between 21 and 22. Right here is Q3. Look at that, 241 to 344. So Tesla's not necessarily hurting. Now, granted, the car market has shifted dramatically, much like many of the markets that we're dealing with, a macro effect that affects a lot of these kind of things that are mostly stemming from high interest rates. The question will be is how does Q4 round out for Tesla? Because remember, they had 309 in 2021, up from 181,000 deliveries in 2020. So the estimate is around 430,000 deliveries in Q4. If that comes down into the 300,000 range, or maybe even below 350, that would most likely be looked at as a severe drop, and we could see a complete new structure of how Tesla is going to face the new year. We're going to get some people on talking about Tesla in January, especially after we see their Q4 earnings and delivery numbers, because I think this is going to be interesting because it being Tesla, it will have a lot of directive, I should say, on where we may see a lot of the S&P numbers coming in from Q4, including Apple, Google, Facebook, Meta, etc., which I think play into this for sure. And again, I think this also plays into the reason that Musk might be stepping down. So here's a tweet right here. Tesla's most prominent investors now openly feuding. Who's been a big 600 billion Tesla's wealth and still nothing. I would disagree with Ross on this, is that this is a cumulative effect of market, the slowdown in auto sales, and the impact of interest rates. There's a big thing happening right now in the car industry. I don't know if you guys have been following. It's this, not in the car business, but I had a chance to talk to some teams this weekend that were telling me and teaching me about this, that were at our high net worth event. And they were in the car business, these guys. And basically what it boiled down to is that these banks are essentially doing swaps without requiring the car to be paid off. And this is causing a huge backlog, and most likely we'll see massive repossessions in Q1 and Q2 of next year. Simply what it means is that a car is being sold to someone knowing that the car they're trading in is way upside down on what they owe versus what it's worth. And they're letting that occur so that eventually they get the new car and then they let the other car repo. So that's the big concern right there. This could be affecting Tesla right now, is we could have seen a lot of owners that stepped up into the Tesla ecosystem that weren't prepared for the cost just associated with those vehicles. And we could be seeing the aftermath of this. And then here you've got Elon saying Tesla is executing better than ever. We don't control the Fed. And that's the real problem. And again, that's back to the point of if you just keep increasing interest rates, you're going to keep decreasing the ability for normal people to buy vehicles, because that just means inching those prices up, which is going to start to eventually put people out of the price zone for a Tesla. Here's Gary Black, who's also a big fan of Tesla, has been for years. Respectfully, long-term interest rate drive Tesla stock price, not the Fed. Funds rate controlled by the Fed. Since you closed the Twitter deal on 10/27, minus 33% is flat. If that was the Fed, all Index stocks would be. Now, I think if you're comparing stock to stock in comparison, yes, there is a factor that plays into this. Again, I think this is more of an accumulative approach that the market has had, the macro has had, the Fed has had, along with the acquisition of Twitter. Now, question will be, if he steps back in to Tesla full time and he drops a new CEO over on Twitter, what's going to be the future of Tesla? But more importantly, is what is going to be the future of Twitter? Do you think that a new CEO will be the new savior, directed by, much like what Elon has done with SpaceX and some of the other Neuralink leaders, has he given them enough rope for them to run and really make something special? Because that's happened with SpaceX. That has also happened with Neuralink. If he's your kind of your lead engineer to kind of bounce ideas off, because I think that in its essence is huge going forward. So you could also look at some of the other things. California cuts payments to homeowners for solar panels, so this also starts to hit the power walls, and that's part of Tesla's long-term plan in terms of alternative energy and what they're trying to do with a lot of the solar walls and even solar roofs for that matter. That is a big hit on the market. And then there are some interesting things happening here that could play into this. I'm going to just play a short clip here from Meet Kevin. This is talking about Elon and Jared Kushner over at the World Cup. But let me play this real quick.
Cup picture came out of Elon Musk standing next to none other than Mr. Kushner, Jared Kushner. This is Ivanka Trump's husband. And what's really interesting about this is Kushner actually runs a private equity firm that has about $3 billion to spend. Now, what's crazy about that is they had about $3 billion to spend at the end of 2021. We'll see how much they have left. But their private equity firm is called Affinity Partners. They have a lot of Saudi backing. It's possible that when Jared Kushner left the Trump White House, potentially as much as 2 out of.
All right, so what he's talking about there is around 2 to 3 billion. 2 of the 3 billion that is in that equity fund is potentially sourced in from the Sauds. And when you look at this statement here, the KKGB, this is Carlo Cassio, he basically said, hey, funding secured. That could be a scenario also where we're seeing some relief on Elon for what's happening over on Twitter, from fiduciary standpoint of just funding the company and having a runway. Because at the rate in which their burn is, which is how much money they're burning each month in comparison to how much money they're taking in, that's a big problem. And Elon has been very open about this, is that it's on the track for bankruptcy. Now, the real question is, do they start to spin this and maybe reoperate this as a public company? Do they spin this and get Saudi funding in here? What does that look like in the future? Because that, to me, is now a foreign entity and a major social media platform that may garner a lot of security issues from the White House. Now we've got a different kind of game that would have to be played into all of this. And not only that, if you start to tie this into payments, now you're getting into user data. It's much like what the struggle that ByteDance has right now with TikTok and the amount of pressure, depending on what president is in place and who they're playing nice with in what country. What we're finding is a lot of these ecosystems now are starting to get international and foreign influence. And that is a concern of the White House and, more importantly, the NSA. So how does this play out? I don't know. Now, smash the like button if you think that this is good for crypto Twitter. If you think that him stepping down, meaning Elon, stepping down from that CEO, it's going to actually be a good thing for where this goes forward. Love to get your feedback on that. Drop a comment below. Make sure and drop some questions in over on the side. A couple other things here I wanted to showcase here. As you guys know, Elon Musk suspended several crypto journalists, crypto Twitter issues. Some of these were where the claim was, and I don't know how true these are, and I won't name names of these journalists because I don't know the facts behind this. But the point is that they were doxing people who they had interviewed. So the claim is that there's a well-known New York Times journalist that interviewed an individual that they got their information from them, including their home address and things of that nature that they claimed to need for the story, and then they ended up doxing that individual in a New York Times article. Some of this has been proven true, and if that is the case, then that's one of the biggest problems of crypto Twitter and any social media platform, is this whole doxing scenario. And these kind of situations are very, very risky for public figures, celebrities, public figures, anyone. It becomes a security issue. And that is the biggest problem, because if someone were to get, pray not, killed or hurt or injured badly because of something that was done in this kind of scenario, this starts to embroil a whole new area around this. Now, at the same time, Elon also has stirred the hornet's nest. When you start to suspend journalists, whether you're left or right, and now we know that Twitter was doing this on the right, we know that that was happening, and the left hand is now saying, okay, well, this is the problem. But at the same time, you've got a journalist like, well, you know, if you look at what Kara Swisher came out and talked about, Kara Swisher is one of the hosts of, and previously of one of the podcasts with Scott Galloway. I won't name the podcast name, but point was is she really threw Elon under the bus, saying this, and this about Twitter and it's a cesspool and all these things. Problem was she's an advisor on another platform. These are the kind of things, another platform that's a direct competitor to Twitter. These are the kind of things that, to me, journalists should not be involved in at all, ever. You know, they should try to present the best neutral, and they can have opinions. I totally agree. I have opinions about things, but you should try to present the most neutral, or at least an opportunity of both sides to present their case. And I think that's the thing that might be playing out for Elon right now, is he's starting to see just some of the problems that this really presents. Here's a good example. Bradley Eversley, he said, man, Elon just popped on the Twitter Spaces, chatting a bunch of journalists. He was called out by Drew Harrell, who was banned for lying about posting links to his private information, then leaves almost immediately after being pressed. And then this was the exchange of him basically pushing back. So let me play a little bit of this.
Information about somebody's location is inappropriate, and I think everyone on this call would not like that to be known to them. And there is not going to be any distinction in the future between journalists, so-called journalists, and regular people. Everyone's going to be treated the same. You're not special because you're a journalist. Ban evasion, or trying to be clever about it, like, oh, I posted a link
Here's
to the real
ban evasion.
Information, is obviously that is obviously simply trying to evade the meaning. There's no different than actually showing real-time information.
So when you're saying posting a link.
So the thing he was talking about there was ban evasion, meaning someone who's doing this and then they figure out a way around getting banned. He talked about earlier the doxing was absolutely it's a no-go, must not be done. And those are normal rules, I would think, with almost any business, any kind of social platform. Further into the article, into the spaces, let me add this right here.
Which are now not online and now banned on Twitter. And Twitter also, of course, marks even the Instagram and Mastodon accounts of Elon Jet as harmful, using, we have to acknowledge, using the same exact link blocking technique that you have criticized as part of the Hunter Biden New York Post story in 2020. So what is different here and there?
No more acceptable for me. It's no more acceptable for me, for you, than it is for me. It's the same thing. So anyway.
So it's unacceptable what you're doing?
No.
All right, so he just got pushed right there on this issue of link blocking, and you'll notice right here on the screen, let me just zoom up on this. This right here is the Elon Jet tracker. Now, what this account is famous for, and the audacity of the person who runs it, because I think of this as almost like extortion, is that basically he takes the tailwing number, he links that in, and then he immediately tweets out the movement of that tailwing, and that tailwing happens to be Elon's jet. So that's movement of a billionaire moving around the world, now in a position where he's either going to have to sell that jet or start to travel in ways in which it's not traceable. But that, again, is doxing. And those are some of the things and the way that he was stopped is his recommendation to Elon is give him $50,000 or a Tesla. Extortion. So give that to me and I'll stop doing this. And then they banned him on the Twitter platform, and then he of course moved over to Mastodon and some other platforms where that is the way that it ends up. Then the whole link blocking thing came in, so you can kind of see the rundown of what was happening. And let me go over to the link blocking. Let's see, I think it was right here. Yeah, right here. Are you just winging it? Legal experts saying that he possibly have made a huge mistake. This was in reference to right here where he stated, "Will remove all accounts created solely." Let me highlight that a little bit for you. solely for the purpose of promoting other social platforms and content that contains links or usernames of the following platforms. And then you saw them: Mastodon, Truth Social, Tribal, Northstar. And then we started to see other things, even like Linktree and others that, which I even use. I use Solo for mine, because you get 1 or 2 links in there that you can use, and you flip it off so people can find all your other places. I mean, that to a point may just make it a little bit harder in Twitter, where you've got to use these bio pages on your own URLs, those kind of things. So I think this is really boiling down to a situation where there's a lot more here for Elon. The problem is this is going to affect projects like Doge. If you're a big fan of Doge, right here you got could be stepping down. This is good, possibly how Doge will react. And if you go to the Doge token, just in the recent bit, we've started to see the movement downward. Now, some of that might be market. Some of that, though, is negative 8% versus what you see up here with Bitcoin. Not necessarily the case. So likelihood, again, this is most likely a situation of Elon having a lot of pressure on Doge. And Joe, if you're a Doge holder, you already know this. This is nothing new for you guys. But I'd love to get you guys' feedback on where you think this starts to push crypto Twitter. Does this hurt or help the future of crypto payments, crypto integration, Web3 integration, NFT integration into Twitter? Because I felt like Twitter might be the one social media platform that truly started to accelerate us into Web3. I'd love to get your thoughts. Let's jump to a poll real quick, and then we will find out. Have you lost all hope of Twitter integrating Web3 features anytime soon? No, Elon will save it. Yes, he's too busy putting out fires. I never believed he would. Okay, interesting. So over 50% of you say not going to be the case. I would still agree. I think this is now maybe a much longer scenario for what we'll see in crypto Twitter and Web3. I would agree. Let's take a few questions. Down there for Sir Ian McKay, Alex Jones for the new CEO. That would be a pure troll move. For sure. Tom Crown. I think it's a good thing he steps down. He's getting too much on his plate. Yeah, I think the bigger thing, Tom, on that, which, by the way, thanks for stopping in, is that you got a couple of things that play into this. If you get a good CEO, like he's done with SpaceX, like he's done with Neuralink, to an extent, the team that he's built around him at Tesla, it's okay if you build a really high-quality team and you're able to drop in and make these kinds of decisions. I wouldn't say that that's a bad thing, but I do agree trying to lead the pack over at Twitter probably was never going to work out. Jen Smith comes in. If crypto forces me to pay attention to politics, I'm quitting. Well, that's going to be an unfortunate scenario. I want CZ as Twitter CEO. Not a chance. CZ's got his own problems that he's dealing with that we should probably talk about this week. Here's Kyle Wilson. So I believe as a long-term roadmap for Twitter, still giving his comments on the creator toolset. I think there is a long-term roadmap. You know who would be really good? Well, I'd love to get your idea. Maybe we should do a video all about the potential CEO candidates for this, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get one of the people that is in his inner circle. I won't name names just yet, but if you follow my show often, you probably know who I'm talking about. There's a handful of people in his inner circle that some had connectivity to PayPal, some had connectivity to early Tesla. They may be one of the players, and they're very astute in the Silicon Valley side of things. So anyway, we'll see how it all plays out, guys. We have a big show for you at 3 o'clock, and that is Mr. John Deaton coming on our show, talking about Ripple, the XRP case, and really kind of the future in 2023 of what regulatory guidelines might look like. So we're going to get some alpha in from John. Don't miss that one. Make sure and stay around. If you've not subscribed to our channel, make sure and do that right now. Just hit subscribe. Just step back, hit subscribe. That little bell over on the right-hand side, if you hit that and hit notify me, it's going to give you a notification of when we live stream. So that's one of the best tools because it will give you all that good stuff. If you guys want to reach me, it is out there on Twitter, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.